Hi, welcome back. I just figured that instead of just having a big break, obviously we're still working with on the cables and the right things working on or not working. Let's just interact with the chat. Let's just talk about the format. Let's talk about the decks people are considering. We had Frank Carson in the chat.
Yeah,
If you guys have any questions, you can ask us pretty much anything magic
magic
related,
related. Yeah.
tournament related. So if you have any questions, fire off in the chat. We're gonna try to answer them as best as we can. Yeah, again, sorry about the technical difficulties. We're trying to work on the problem, making sure it doesn't happen moving forward.
Yeah, it's the first time I think it's happened in this kind of event in with Legacy in LMS, so it could be something happen sometimes.
What cards would you like to add to Pioneer? That's a
Mm.
good question. I think maybe a few more cheaper cards would be better. Maybe for the format, but because some people were complaining, maybe the play draw thing is a little too much. Being on the play is too much of an advantage. I don't really think so. I think there's a lot of decks that just, for example, Celestia Angels. If you're playing that deck, you're just signing up to get overrun very quickly because you don't really have anything to play on turn one. So I don't think the problem is that bad. And as far as adding something to the format, I don't really have any card picked that I would like to see here. What do you think Blue White Control did wrong yesterday? I think Blue White Control did fine. It's just, as I said, it's a deck that you do need to play fast, and having 50-minute rounds is perhaps maybe not enough at the moment for the Blue White Control players to finish the rounds. Is Ragdos being 25% of the meta? Ragdos was 21% day
Yeah.
one, and the conversion rate was about 24%. So it did slightly better than expected. A concern to the health of Pioneer? I don't think so. If you look at the overall metagame, it was like 21% Ragdos, and then like 8%, 8%, 5%, 3%, 3%. So pretty diverse metagame and a pretty healthy format, if you ask me. Is Blue White Control doing good? I think we had one Blue White Control player in the top eight, but I'm not 100% sure.
I have to say, for me, there is no too much diversity in a game such like Magic. What do you
Mhm.
think about? Are you agree with? There is Hamburger Romane is said to us. Didn't you think that right now we have too much diversity on a competitive perspective? It's a nightmare or not?
Yeah, I think that's how Magic should be. There should be more decks because if there are just three decks, if there's one deck doing well, people complain, and rightfully so. If you want to play on the ladder, you play standard, you play against Ragdos midrange 7 out of 10 games. That's not gonna be fun. That's gonna make people say like, you know what, it's a little bit too much of the same thing over and over. I'm just gonna take a little break, maybe come back for the next standard format. So if things are diverse, you play against different decks. That's more fun, in my opinion. Do you consider yourself a professional with the Magic scene now post COVID? I don't think there are no professional players right now. I think Wizards made it clear that right now I think the overall focus is more on making sure that different kinds of players and different kinds of Magic fans can enjoy the events. Right now, whether you're a cosplayer, whether you like playing Commander, whether you like to
Yeah.
trade cards, whether you like the artists and maybe having them sign your cards, or maybe you draw something cool on your binder. If you're a player, if you like playing PTQs, there's a little bit of everything for everyone right
Exactly.
now, and I think that's great. I think it's awesome that we see more types of Magic fans and not just players enjoying the game. And even if it comes at the cost of the professional play right now a little bit, that's just how it is. We just have to adjust to that. And I think overall it's clearly better for the game. The game is doing great. So yeah, shout out to the game designers as well.
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying the last couple limited sets, so shout out to them as well for creating fun limited environments.
Yeah, also in
And
this kind of event, um, all the side events are very good, very funny. It's completely enjoyable, even if you're not a very strong player and you don't like real competitive, but you prefer something different. You can just join in this kind of event and have fun.
well, it looks like we're good to
Yeah,
go back live.
we are ready for the next round. So we will see you soon, later enough with
Oh,
Philip and Philippa.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, see you later.
Welcome back to the Legacy European Tour. We are here in the Grand Open qualifier in Valencia. It's day 2, round 14. So we have this round and one more of Swiss and then a cut to top 8, which is usually very exciting for the players. And we will also do after round 15 a live top 8 announcement, which is always exciting
Yep.
to see what players made it and what decks also made it into top 8. Don't forget, this is a closed deck list event, but after top 8 it is open, and then you can check all the decks on MTG Melee.
Exactly.
It's a great way to see what did well here and prepare for Athens, the Legacy Championship in just 2 weeks, and also Pioneer. So let's take a look here at the deck. What is happening? We have Eugenie in Izzet Phoenix versus Marco on Dimir Control. Dimir Control, first appearance here, at least for us casting. What do you think of this deck and this matchup in particular?
Yeah, choosing blue-black instead of blue-white is an interesting decision because normally you would think that blue-white is better because of Dovin's Veto, Supreme Verdict, so better sweepers, the Wandering Emperor and Teferi as better planeswalkers. But what blue-black has going is, first of all, Thoughtseize, right? This is an actually very, very unique effect that blue-white wouldn't be able to have. On top of that, you play Fatal Push, right? It's a very, very efficient piece of removal. Sheoldred's Edict is one of my personal favorites. It allows you to very, very cleanly answer any problematic permanence. And of course, hard removal like Go for the Throat, Power Word Kill, and stuff like that. So I think blue-black has merit, and we will see it in action right now.
And
Yep.
how does this deck win?
So, as any control deck, it usually doesn't. But when it does, whoa,
That is very rough to say after the 3% conversion
Yes.
rate of blue-white control.
but I can say it because I play those decks myself. So, this deck plays Torrential Gearhulk as the top end. You usually have Shark Typhoon as your creature of choice, and some number of creature lands like Home of the Storm Giant to close out the game. So, all in all, not that much. Blue-white has much more because of the planeswalkers like the Wandering Emperor and Shark Typhoon and Manlands. But yeah, here we're watching a very interesting blue control and blue cantrip Xerox type of deck battle. I'm curious to see which deck comes out on top.
It looks like the Izzet player tried to cast pieces of the puzzle and looks like a Sinister Sabotage on the other side, countering the spell.
Yeah, Sinister Sabotage actually provides proper value in this deck because if you surveil a card away, it fuels your dig through time, and that's actually something I personally try to do in blue-white. So play cantrips because cantrips are good. Play Sinister Sabotage instead of Absorb, and play dig through time. And I really like the fact that Camiluzzi is playing cantrips, and yeah, I've never really understood why blue-white players don't play cantrips when they can. So I will do that.
Another pieces of the puzzle, and
Magic
we
negate.
have a negate. Getting rid of that, it looks like Eugenie cannot cast a single spell without being countered, but I guess that's what this Dimir control does after all. Also, I see that it has the land that it transforms into a 7/7, the Owl, and
Yeah.
it's also a great
Oh.
way to win eventually.
I think it's actually Otawara actually.
Oh,
It's
Otawara.
Otawara and Takanuma actually, yeah, overlapping there. What I saw in Marco's hand is Cling to Dust. And Cling to Dust is an excellent card. I'm a huge fan of it because it's a cantrip that has a proper effect in games. Something like for example, Joy card, exile your something you're targeting. In this particular matchup, you can exile Arclight Phoenix, and you can do it instant speed whenever you want. Whoa! Double Spell Pierce on Dig Through Time. Okay.
And here we have a draw, and there it is. This time for sure,
Yes.
the 7/7 land Hall of the Storm Giant. So tell me something here. Some people were asking in chat, and very well. Does this list run Two Thing and Ice, Ledger Shredder, all mini of each? And the truth is that we cannot say because it is a closed deck list. But Philip, I know you have an opinion on why some of these decks bring different amounts of these particular 2 drops.
Yeah, so let me kind of address the question that our lovely Mr. Monko asked. So yeah, Thing in the Eyes is usually played in more creature-dense metas when you expect mono green, potentially convoke. Ledger Shredder is better in more control-ish and mid-range-ish meta games. They all have merit. From Eugenie, actually, we saw both. So the question is basically what kind of proportion they play them as. But yeah, we see actually both Thing in the Ice and Ledger Shredder. So we're keeping both type of effects in the deck.
And here, would you think as an advantage?
Well, in this case, I like Marco's position because the less things are happening, the better it's for control, usually. But unfortunately, there are those 2 tokens chipping away, which is kind of annoying because you actually have to spend resources to get rid of them.
And Cling to Dust. Cling to Dust is a great way to either gain life or draw cards, and it works especially good against Phoenix that you are able to exile.
Yup, certainly. Yeah, this is very, very good because now those spirits are getting in, chipping away. But a single Cling to Dust on a Phoenix exiles a Phoenix. Of course, that's value in itself. You gain a bit of life. Oh, that is aggressive. I like that. Just activate whole block because Marco knows there is nothing that he can be punished by, especially game 1. Because game 2, we know there could be like Jaya coming down. And now, probably the biggest possible punish pre-board, which is Treasure Cruise. Just draw 3. Oh.
Make disappear.
Oh, that's good. Okay, now he will pay. What? Why did he not pay? What? Why did he not pay? We've got Canal and Steam Vents up. Am I missing something?
Maybe wanting to do something there.
Oh, okay, no, okay, now I see it. So he sacrificed the whole. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Because at the moment he was casting, I didn't see that. Okay, now yeah, that makes sense. He was casualtied. Okay. I thought of casualty. I thought, but there are no creatures. Okay, they were. Okay, hard cast Shark Typhoon, and now every single spell this game will make a token. So I think if Marco untaps, now he should be fine. Yeah, there's the classic command, hard cast Shark.
Which is actually just casting Shark.
Yeah.
Instead of using the ability.
Yeah, this is now insert baby shark song type of joke here.
But they are not so baby like that because
Oh, they not.
I'm sure this Dimir has some big spells that make some big sharks, and that can be a very fast way for Marco to win here.
Yep. And now, Cling to Dust, not only is it a great cantrip, in my opinion, that has a lot of utility, it can be escaped in a pinch, and I think it can be escaped even now. So, it provides even more value.
Does this Dimir control list usually play Geralt?
So, usually it does, because, I mean, people play 0, 1, or 2, and Gearhulk is more added because, first, this deck doesn't close fast, no proper planeswalkers, and also you play Dig, so you really want to Hulk on a Dig. Against this particular deck, we saw Marco play Gearhulk in general. The exact number is unknown. Okay, so now we got attack for 4.
But now every spell can be making sharks to block.
Yep, and that changes the dynamic.
I think that's a Field of Ruin there, targeting a land. Let's see, getting a basic island for Eugenie. And here Marco considering what basic to go for.
So normally with those Field of Ruins, you're waiting for a manland, like Hall of the Storm Giants. But here, I think the reason might be to turn on Revolt for a Fatal Push. I think this might be the actual reason.
So it looks like Marco really considering between island or swamp.
Yeah. So
Deciding to go for the swamp, shuffling up the deck.
presenting the deck for a cut. Deck is cut, and I will expect Fatal Push to come down soon enough. Yeah, I saw it in the hand. Boop. Fatal Push on the Arclight Phoenix.
It makes a 1/1 because of Shark Typhoon.
Yeah, and I also think that at the end of the turn we will cling to dust that Phoenix. Okay, killing the token. So Eugenie is really trying to push through damage. Now Marco could still cling to dust Phoenix now, get a token, and then block.
Yeah, and Cling to Dust gets really good because you can gain life as well, which when Marco is down to 6 might be relevant. And I see a prismatic. No, I see. What is that card? Cannot quite retell, but it looks like some things are going to get exiled.
Yeah, and now we've got cling to
It's
dust.
the Cling to Dust.
Yep, on the Phoenix, gain 3 life, crucially, disrupt your plan, and make a shark. So it's a very, very good position.
Every spell that you play, it now is going to make you a little shark. And we know that Marco is full of sorceries and instants that are going to keep creating these little sharks.
Yeah, I also saw Ertai in Marco's hand.
Ertai is a great card.
Yeah, Ertai is a hot one.
It not only it allows you to destroy a creature or a planeswalker or also counter. Of course your opponent is going to draw a card, but it's still very advantageous for you when you keep a 3/2.
Yeah, I think the main purpose is also the flexibility, right? Like you've got a counter / removal on a creature. That's just very, very useful. I think we'll see Ertai come down now. Yep.
It reminds me of that creature that played in Simic. Maybe you can recall 3/2 as well.
Frilled Mystic.
Yes.
Frilled
That's
Mystic.
exactly it.
Yes, that is a niche.
And what does Phoenix need here to come back from this game and be able to stop Marco?
I think we can try to go like combo-y a bit, maybe like Galvanic Iteration into double Temporal Trespass, something like that. Could work, just attacking with a 3/2.
Looks like we have a Fatal Push making a 1/1. And for those of you wondering, the Shark Typhoon, it doesn't create a shark when you play a creature.
Yeah. We've got another Field of Ruin, okay. Also like checking out how many maybe basics Eugenie has, but clearly has enough for now.
Are you a fan of escape cards like Cling to Dust?
I am. I am very, very much a fan. Like you're getting the effect that you want, and then on top of that, you always have something to use later, and that's particularly good when you're trading resources. And here we very much are trading resources, so you know it's very similar with Memory Deluge, kind of. When you like play it the first time, okay, you play, and at some point on a random, turn 9, you go, oh, let's flashback Memory Deluge.
And someone was asking, what does Ertai Resurrected do? The multicolor card we see here for Dimir. And it's actually a quite played card in Standard. It's a 4-mana 3/2 with Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you choose either to counter a spell and activate an ability, or to destroy another target creature or planeswalkers its controls draws a card.
Yeah, so it's a long line of text, but we'll show you that soon enough. Ertai is an interesting inclusion. Okay. Opt. And now double. Okay, I saw Fiery Impulse in hand, so Eugenie is still fighting for it, although it seems like control is firmly in the driver's seat thanks to the Hardcast Shark Typhoon. Oh, Temporal Trespass. Temporal Trespass is coming. Yep, take the next turn. Now, crucially, if you take the next turn but you don't do anything instead of it, or in addition to it, it's kind of like an explore. It's kind of empty. It's like, yeah, it is a time walk, but in practice, you just paid mana to untap that mana, take a draw. It's much better if you get an additional combat step because of it, or maybe you get an additional planeswalker activation.
Ledger Shredder, that's a way to try to get out of the situation, start conniving for your outs.
Yeah, and now we've got Connive plus Charter Call, so that's a ton of card selection.
And how does the trigger works here?
Yeah, so Charter Course is placed on the stack. It triggers Connive for Ledger Shredder. In response to Connive, it gets killed. So now Eugenie knows that there is no Ledger Shredder, still connives. So discards one card. And then we get Charter Course. So draw 2 and discard 1.
And discarding is exactly what this Phoenix deck wants to be doing.
Opt. Yeah, but the question is whether there is something at the end of the chain. This is the question, because if it just begins and ends here, that's not much. Okay, and we've got attack in, so getting aggressive now, attacking for 5, maybe even 6.
A big attack here for Marco, trying to close out this game as soon as possible.
Yeah, so because even though you've got the control over the game, the thing is that in Magic, especially nowadays, you can't actually control the game until the very end, all the way through. Like, it is much better to choose the point at which you turn the corner, close the game, and then you don't have to worry anymore about any miscellaneous permanents. Because, who knows, maybe Eugenie will play now a Planeswalker or something, or maybe you will play Otawara on your Shark Typhoon. I mean, there's multiple things that could go potentially wrong. Thing India is flipping, gets rid of all the tokens, so...
And let us know, Twitch chat, what do you prefer? Leisure Shredder, Thing in Ice, a combination of both? Where is your preference when it comes to this Izzet Phoenix deck? I'm always curious to see. It might get some diverse opinions, I think. It's pretty debatable.
We will see if people get a bit more safe with their answer and just say, well, depends on the metagame. Or Smoldering Egg is a good one.
Smoldering Egg. Someone is a Dragons fan here.
Yeah, Thing in the Eyes. I know Daniel Lakos is a Ledger Shredder fan. And Daniel Lakos is one of the most popular and one of the best Izzet Phoenix players on the planet.
Izzet?
Yes.
I have to stop. Somebody in chat did this Izzet joke, Izzet, which is not new, but now I'm just rolling with it.
Oh, I said it the other way around. Okay, sorry. I must have said, yeah, I said the other, yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I said it the other way around.
And we have here Phoenix
Poor Daniel Lakos, yeah.
for 4 mana. Another Phoenix. Did you ever see 2 casted Phoenix in a row?
I don't think I have. And even if I did, I would be happy to see my opponent hard casting double Phoenix. Yeah, the Izzet joke is the same like the Modern's Dismember joke.
I have too many bad Magic puns, and at my local game store, nobody ever laughs, so I don't know why I try to say them here, but I still do, so hopefully you all enjoy, or at least don't take it too seriously.
Okay, chat immediately picked up on Dismember. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Well, to be fair, if you don't tell your joke, you will never find out if they would laugh, right? If you don't tell it, they won't laugh. But if you do, maybe. Who knows?
And here we have some blocks as Eugenie fighting for every life point at 2 life remaining.
Yeah, and then
this is just game.
Yeah, post-combat, Trespasser, Exile Phoenix, Trigger, and get this game over with. So, upper game for Dimir Control.
We have definitely up a game here, and let us know, what do you think is favorite post sideboard? Do you think it's Dimir, or do you think it's Phoenix? Tell me, Scooter, your opinion as well. What do you think the sideboard strategy is going to be here for both players?
Yeah, so I would favor Dimir Control, but it's mainly because I usually favor non-Phoenix post board. But it also depends on how Phoenix decides to approach this, because there will be a lot of dedicated graveyard hate, but also incidental graveyard hate. And it's not like a Planeswalker will run away with the game against a deck full of negates and stuff. So I think Phoenix has to play a bit more cautiously, a bit more, has to be careful the way they play, get the most out of every card, every Izzet Pyromancer, young Pyromancer has to have some tokens behind it, because we saw how annoying those 2 Sokenzan tokens were, right? It was only Shark Typhoon that actually managed to stabilize. So I would like to go as wide as possible, if possible, and something like Young Pyromancer backed up by the threat of Arclight Phoenix might be pretty decent. But then on the flip side, Dimir Control has tools like Cling to Dust, maybe like Unlicensed Hearse, Extinction Event.
And I see some people asking for the meta breakdown, and you can actually find it on Legacy European Twitter. So if you go Legacy European Tour on Twitter, you'll find everything you need for this event, including the meta breakdown. Of course, sometimes we show it in between rounds, so you might wait as well for that. But the best way to find it immediately is to go on Twitter.
Yeah.
And here are players shuffling up. A lot of graveyard hate, as you said, that Dimir might bring post sideboard, but is it Phoenix prepared for that?
Yeah, there's also Graveyard Trespasser, so there's a big overlap with red-black mid-range here, with again Trespasser, Extinction Event, and again potentially, not potentially, certainly Cling to Dust.
Cling to Dust is a great card. We've talked about it here this weekend, and definitely making a show.
Yeah, because Izzet Phoenix has to spin their wheels, cast multiple spells to get that Phoenix back, and then Marco can just go, okay, cling it. And that basically invalidates your whole turn. Of course, you've done a ton of card selection, but until that card selection amounts to something tangible, it's kind of meaningless, right? So until you've taken advantage of the card selection itself won't win you the game.
And what is your favorite magic pun? Do you have any?
My favorite magic pun. Oh my god. The Dismember one is a classic, although probably overused.
Remember when there was Kamigawa draft not so long ago, and there was the Shrine deck?
The Shrine deck. Yeah, they may have been. Yeah, what? What
Yeah,
about it?
Every time I played that deck, and I just like drafting that. I don't know why. My opponents would be like, "So, how is your deck? Are you enjoying it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's time to Shrine." But see, that's why I cannot do any. My opponents didn't laugh now. Certainly, nobody's laughing as well. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I think if Twitch chatted some tomatoes, they would be throwing at me right now.
I would like to have some really good puns at the ready, but I'm not sure I do. Probably some of them could include some random counterspell names, but then again, I can't really think of any. Okay, maybe chat has some their favorite dad joke, pun-ish things connected with magic cards. A deafening silence. That's yep.
There's a lot of them, and while our players are shuffling up, is the right time to make these kind of entertaining moments, since not much is going on. But yeah, every time I play Modern and someone is playing Human, I always are like, I'm only human after
Okay,
all.
good. That's it. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
And then when my opponent is playing Coco, I'm always, wake me up before you Coco.
Okay, that's a
So
nice one.
I have one for each type of deck. I'm so fun to play against. Not what my local game store thinks, but I think I am a great opponent.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yep. Oh, there must be multiple. I just can't think of them right now. There's certainly so many.
I'm laughing at your jokes as well, Chad. Just for the good banter. And let's get back here to the game while our players are shuffling.
Yeah,
Key
yeah.
cards to watch in the match.
Key cards to watch. I think actually I would focus on the non-graveyard cards from Eugenie, like Young Pyromancer, Planeswalkers, Crackling Drake, and for Marco, I would look at Shark Typhoon, maybe Hardcast again, or maybe just like a blocker for Arclight Phoenix, Cling to Dust, early, counter magic for pieces of the puzzle. So yeah, I mean that actually in Marco's deck there aren't like particularly single key cards. It's like the whole deck consists of a lot of redundancy, I'd say. Okay, but I think players are now ready. Let's hope they don't mulligan, because then we'll get even more shuffling.
And here we have Island. We know that this is a deck usually has a lot of one-drops. Totsis.
Tatsushi Umegaki, the joke you've just told, this is actually one of my personal favorite jokes. I knew it, but I really like that joke.
So let's take a look here. What would you take with Totsis?
So it really is contingent on the contents of Marco's hand, because whether, for example, if there is a graveyard hate in the hand, you keep the delve spells in hand, right? You don't want to take a lightning axe because by and large it's going to be dead anyways. So Charter Course could be an option because Charter Course is the only castable card in this hand, and this hand is actually pretty slow, I would say.
Yeah, only having Otawara as the second land, no red source yet, but some ways to try to draw cards.
Yeah, so I would consider taking chart and then doing something with pieces later, because without the chart it's difficult to hit appropriate land drops.
And here we have Charter Course.
Which it immediately does, yeah, double land. So I think he will ditch Lightning Axe.
And there it is, Lightning Axe in the graveyard.
That's another reason to actually play those types of cards, because you can always discard them to Ledger Shredder, Charter Course.
And we have a second land here for Marco as well, but not doing anything right yet. We know that this deck usually works in instant speed.
Okay, actually, oh, that's interesting. So Eugenie is hiding the fact that he has a red source. I actually like that.
Yeah, might make Marco play in a different way. And we have Consider here, Cling to Dust. Is there an answer for Cling to Dust?
Oh, that would be weird to have an answer. Because like, I mean, you could spell pitch that, but you don't really want to. It's just a draw a card effect. It makes Delve worse, but I can see more magic jokes coming.
And I really actually enjoyed that Marco decided to bring a different deck here from what is the matter right now. And Graveyard Trespasser working great against these cards that get Phoenix from the grave.
Yeah, also Trespasser just gets rid of a card in the graveyard, so it's much more difficult to play Delve spells.
Leisure Shredder, and we are going to start Connive. This is another way that Eugenie here has to win. Not always these Phoenix decks have to rely exactly on Phoenix, right?
Okay, so we've got a draw, and we already have 4 cards in the graveyard. But now we've got a Tapland Pass, so Marco has a window to exile more cards from the opponent's graveyard. Okay,
Yeah, Fatal Push here. Fatal Push a great way to deal with this Ledger Shredder.
yeah, because Ledger Shredder grows out of range of a lot of damage bait spells, but Fatal Push says, I don't care. Could be a 4-6, could be a 1-3, kill it. Yeah, so Fatal Push really shines here, and Marco does one thing I've mentioned previously, which is, let's just close this game. Like, interacting is fun, but let's do it while maybe getting the opponent dead. And Marco is now the one on the offensive. And even if there's like pieces of the puzzle coming, I mean, in a weird way, who cares?
And when your opponent is not really caring about pieces of the puzzle, you know something is going right for Marco here.
So
we saw how powerful this deck here is, and let's see what that piece of the puzzle can get.
Yeah, so we've got Phoenix into the graveyard, which is always good, kind of incidentally into the graveyard. So we could see 2 more spells, and now this is the thing. No matter whether those spells are countered or not...
Oh, look at this. Lightning Axe, discarding the Phoenix, and then because of the ward, you get to discard Another card, so
Yep.
that works quite well.
Yeah, and now again, doesn't matter if this lightning axe resolves, Eugenie will just cast another card and bring back 2 phoenixes from under Trespasser. That's wild. Um, yeah, that's very good combination.
And here, Marco deciding to let that resolve. And we have opt.
Consider.
I consider, sorry, yeah.
Which could actually hypothetically add another phoenix if you're so lucky to surveil it, but there are a few things happening here. So first of all, you're attacking for 6, which comes in. Even if Marco has Extinction Event, which would be good, Eugenie has a full graveyard, so he will just follow up with, no, Treasure Cruise, something. But actually just pass.
This must feel bad for Marco here, really needing an answer. Phoenix attacking again, that's 6 more damage, and Marco is getting down to those points of life.
Yep.
Very
1, 2, 3,
quickly.
4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go at Elven.
And
Whoop! Draw 3.
this is where this Phoenix deck starts to shine, because we saw that Marco for a while at the advantage was the aggressor seat, as you said, trying to close out the game very fast.
Yeah, and basically it seems like in a span of a single turn, like half a turn, now the offensive is on the other side, and now we see another Treasure Cruise paying a bunch of mana. I really like the way this Phoenix player is operating. Sequencing it very, very well, and actually Marco scoops them up.
And great
Wow.
game here, and what he thought in the beginning was favored for Marco end up being for Eugenie, just taking the game here. Phoenix doing what Phoenix does, right? Just
Ye-
bringing a bunch of birds, Phoenixes to the battlefield, attacking and winning in a couple of turns.
Yeah, and actually, so what happened here is that Marco had Cling to Dust, Marco had Trespasser, but that wasn't enough. So this Phoenix deck, oh boy, do I tell you, they might actually be decent.
Yeah, and let's see if we can see any Izzet Phoenix on the top 8, and it might make a return. Now the most Izzet play deck here in Pioneer usually is Creativity, but maybe a comeback for Phoenix. And our players are deciding how to sideboard for game 3. What do you think here, Philip, that we can see on game 3?
I don't think there will be many changes, depending on play draw. I think they will just resubmit the same number of cards, although Marco, maybe as a control deck, with a lot of choices for cards and threats, might change it depending on that. But it's not like you wouldn't want Trespasser on the draw or on the play, so I think the overall composition will stay the same.
And let us know, Twitch chat, who are you rooting for, Dimir Control or Izzet Phoenix?
I think, like, in the past, while Phoenix might have been, like, you know, a deck people don't really like because of how popular it was, right now Phoenix is the good guy. Like, this is, people will root for Phoenix because it has basically vanished off the face of the format.
Somebody said I'm rooting for commentators for more jokes, and I never thought I ever would see a comment like this.
Well, this is certainly a request, which, no, if we were to grant it, we would grant it now because the players are shuffling. Have you got anything else in
No,
your
it's
arsenal?
It's just it's bad. I'm not going to torture Twitch chat anymore, but I will thank Sherryman for the raid. Thank you for bringing your people over here to the Legacy European Tour. We really appreciate it. We are right now, for those of you arriving, on round 14 of the Grand Open qualifier in Valencia. We are watching Dimir Control versus Izzet Phoenix, and our both one-on-one game 3 is now going to be played.
Yeah, you're listening to Filipa, MTG, and Philip, also known as Islands in Front, also known as Skura.
Yeah.
We've been covering the matches yesterday, today, and we will still be covering matches until the conclusion of this event.
Oh, I have another one that I remember, because before I was playing Fires, and I would always, you know, this Adele song, I would always sing, I set fire.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, okay. We are finished, okay.
Wait. Were you singing it when playing Fires of Invention, or just, you know, you sit down and you go, okay, and then you sing.
No,
Just
just
before.
when I play the card, you know, when I play the card
Okay.
and I do my Adele voice.
I think the only thing I could do is when there's this dragon, Ayo, so I could maybe go Ayo. Okay,
Okay.
that's as far as I will go.
Now I understand why people don't like my jokes, because when I hear you saying it, it's not as funny as when I say these things in my head.
So this is exactly how it sounds, by the way. So yeah,
Okay, let's see our players here shuffling up.
yeah.
And
Shuffling up, we've got time for probably a few more jokes. Actually, I saw some jokes from the Twitch chat, and they were pretty decent. I really like the light bulb one, the Tron one. Yeah, pretty decent. Okay, shuffling up, shuffling up.
and just a reminder, this event is with closed deck lists. So usually what happens is that after top 8, the list will become available for everyone. So make sure you follow Legacy European Tour on Twitter, and then you can find not only the meta breakdown, conversion rates, all of this information. You are also going to be able to find all the lists, and I know that is very, very relevant because we are in Pioneer season. So we are for sure going to see a lot of Pioneer in the following months.
Yep.
Actually, in 2 weeks, we have the finals here in Europe. It's going to be
Athens.
in Athens, Pioneer. We are both going to be there.
Yeah. Also, if you might or may not know, I am a writer for Card Market, and every time I finish one of those events as a caster, I post an article with the best stories and the best decks of the weekend. So you can also certainly expect that on Card Market pretty soon.
And also, if you are wondering, how can I participate in this tournament? So the Grand Open qualifiers, they, as the name say, are open, so everyone can join. You can go to Legacy European website and find the next events. We're going to have a lot of them. And if you want to qualify for the regional championship, that's not the only way. You can always qualify through your local game store. So make sure you ask. Local game stores are running these events. It's always nice to go to your local game store, talk to your friends, see who comes victorious and is able to join us here. Next one is going to be in Athens, but now you can qualify for the one in Lille later on this year.
There are also last chance qualifiers.
There are also last chance qualifiers. So if you want to join in Athens, you can. You can play the last chance qualifier on Friday, try to qualify for the weekend. And if you can't, you also have a classic qualifier for another event on Sunday. So you have lots of ways.
Yeah, actually today even I saw a bunch of players, and I talked with multiple players, and actually they didn't even come here to play Pioneer. They came with their friends, played a bunch of side events on Friday and Saturday, and today they're playing Sunday Open Qualifier. Is it Classic Open Qualifier is the name? So yeah, another big event which includes all the people who came to play side events and people who dropped day one.
I remember when I was playing back in the days, the GPs, it was always one of my favorite parts, watching players like Andrea Mengucci and be able to play against them eventually.
Yep.
And here we see
Sensor.
countering the young Pyromancer, which, as you mentioned several times, is a way that the Izzet Phoenix can kind of counter the graveyard hate that usually these black decks have, and go for another strategy, another way to win that is not necessarily...
Okay, what's happening here? Because we've got... Okay, this is... Okay, I was thinking, why would you run out young Pyromancer like that? The only reason is that maybe you have too many of them. Again, sure enough, he plays another one and misses the land drop. So why would you keep them in hand and do nothing when you can do something? And you got counter into main phase Deluge, in order to not make Sanchez use their mana on, for example, Spell Pierce, which I think is... I like this. That's a heads-up play. That's a really heads-up play from Marco. Well, if you miss the GPs, come here, because, well, we have 400 players in the main event, but I can tell you, because I've been here, we've got another like 100, 150 playing side events. We also have traders, we've got artists, so... Yeah, you really have the full experience. You can watch feature matches live. You can get my praying little child token, I mean.
You can say hello to us. I always like when people say hello to us. It's always very special.
Yeah, it's always nice, yeah.
And we see there a Field of Ruin. This Leisure Shredder, is it enough to start the Izzet deck to start getting the cards that are needed to come back a bit from this very rough start with only 2 lands?
Yeah, now we've got 3, we've got a threat. So now it's much better. So now we're back to the normal game. It's not going to end up, you know, mana screw into a loss. So we'll see how that goes. Playing an opt, and then soon enough there'll be a connive action, but I would assume that Ledger Shredder is dying soon enough. I can okay, chat. Okay, this is hot. You know what I saw in Marco's hand? Thought distortion. Thought distortion. Maybe we'll be able to get that on the screen. Thought distortion.
But it's a great card. I can read it
Oh,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, immediate, actually, yeah. I just when I said it.
There
So-
it is. This card was played a lot in Sultai back in the days in Standard, and it's a great way because
Wow.
it will remove every non-creature spell from your genies and also exiles it, right?
Yeah, it exiles the okay. Okay, we see Lightning Axe into Spell Pierce my Lightning Axe just to get the connive, but the full hand of non-lands will be exiled and the graveyard will be exiled from among those non-lands. So, this is literally GG. This is literally GG, I think. Like, Eugenie's hand is empty, graveyard has only 2 creatures. What could be the best draw? I think Jaya? But, like, you know, this is really tough. This is really tough for the Phoenix player.
And for those of you
Wow.
wondering what was this spell, Casted Thought Distortion, if you are not familiar with it, it's a 6 mana sorcery. This spell cannot be countered. Target opponent reveals their hand, exile all non-creature, non-land cards from that player's end and graveyard.
Yeah, this is important because if you exile the whole hand, of course it's terrible, but you can rip a treasure cruise and go back into the game. Now you cannot. And also the trespasser flips. Wow. Okay, this is crazy. Attack in 4/4 because they're racing, but it's difficult to race against a creature that gains life. Yeah, so Eugenie and also Marco has like 5 cards in hand right now. And another trespasser. Wow.
And it's night, so these trespassers are going to be able to exile 2 cards and 4 4s.
Yeah, it immediately enters flipped as well because the state is night. Okay, pieces of the top. That's a good one. Oh, mystical dispute. Mystical dispute back connive. Okay, okay. They revealed cards off screen, so we're not sure what these are. But this is consider and pieces. Another okay, consider and another pieces. So that was a nice turn, but it didn't accomplish much because now Marco has got 8 power on the battlefield. So if he can exile 2 creatures, this is game. I mean, exile 2 creatures and then Ledger Shredder would have to block. So actually, okay, it's not game, but the removal on Ledger Shredder would give another creature in the graveyard, but I don't think there are that many. Oh, it becomes day as well. Okay, yeah, it becomes day. Okay, so it's not that scary.
Becomes day, these trespassers become 3/3s again.
Yeah. Anyways, it's quite difficult for Phoenix to come back. Like, this is... If Marco was, let's say, at 6, right? We could have a conversation, I think. But right now, from 17, that's rough.
We always have a judge in these events, especially next to the feature match. There's always a judge just designated for this particular match. So
Oh, and there is dig through time on top of it? Wow. Wow, okay, this is crazy. I mean, this is the amount of card advantage now. And again, this is what we talked about last time. It's enough to have a single fatal push to make this Ledger Shredder die. You don't have to, bend over backwards with your fiery prophecies and stuff. And sure enough, push it. Hive, animate, bash you in, trigger, shake of the hand.
And this game is going for Marco here, now at 10 and 4, which is a good score, especially if you're trying to make top 32, which I know is a goal for a lot of these players, because top 32 qualifies for the finals that are going to be held in Lille in the end of September.
Yeah, so we've got Athens coming up, but the season for qualifying for Athens was in the past, right? The tournaments now qualify you for Lille.
And now let's get the camera back to us, as we had such an interesting round 14. Just to
did.
recap, because a lot of people are joining in and want to know what's going on the event, where to find lists. We have here a next events that we are going to hold. So 2 weeks from now, we have the Legacy European Championship in Athens, which is going to be Pioneer. So a lot of players are watching this stream to know how the decks are performing, because
Yep.
this is a big Pioneer tournament. I know a lot of people have their eyes on it, and it's going to be very interesting to see if there's going to be a different meta for the finals. And also, for those of you that are wondering, we are on day 2 of the Grand Open qualifier. Around 409 players, I think, joined in day 1 yesterday. Top 64 May day 2. We are currently on round 14. We have one more round of Swiss and then a cut to top 8.
Yep.
And what have you think of this weekend here?
So it's been very exciting. Multiple different decks we've seen on coverage. If you watch the coverage later on YouTube, when we roll back on Twitch, you will see Atraxa in action, Neoform Atraxa. You'll see Creativity Hulk, Creativity Atraxa. You'll see Karuga Fires, Izzet Phoenix, Mono White Humans, Rakdos Midrange, Mono Green, Lotus. I mean, I could go on. The number of decks we've seen is enormous. All of them provided really interesting gameplay, interesting decision points, and interesting deck building decisions as well. So very exciting, and it's far from over. We've got one more Swiss round, cut to the top 8, and the top 8.
I really hope everyone at home is enjoying. Let us know, what are you thinking of this event? Are you having fun watching Pioneer? I really hope everyone is enjoying. We have a big technical team making sure these events run smoothly, and I think they are working so hard to make each event better than the other one, trying to also reduce downtime, all of these things. And I'm really excited to, in the end of the day, be able to give this trophy here to the winner of the Grand Open qualifier, Valencia. You really need to check out Legacy European Tour website to make sure you don't miss out on the next events, or even go to your local game store and play there a qualifier. I've done that myself.
Yep. Play multiple qualifiers myself for Lille.
Yeah, so right now the format is Pioneer, or you can also play Sealed, so your store decides between these two formats. I have played Sealed. I always have a lot of fun playing Limited, and it's a very interesting format. Also very excited for Lord of the Rings coming up very soon. It's going to be a good matchup. Are you excited for this Lord of the Rings set coming up soon?
Certainly. Because as far as I remember, it will already be legal for Bologna, which is modern. At which point it will be super exciting to see what decks people come up with, and whether it will shake up the format, for example, by making other, let's say, tier 2.5 decks float to the top, maybe bringing the top decks down, maybe creating a completely new archetypes. Difficult to predict, difficult because we don't know what they could possibly put in that set. But for now, I'm enjoying Pioneer, and I won't stop enjoying Pioneer because of Athens later. So yeah, we're all about Pioneer here.
Yeah, the more Magic I play, the more formats I also venture into. So right now I've been playing a bit of Modern, a little bit of Pioneer. My favorite is Limited. I'm still like a Limited player, but I really do enjoy on MTGO as well, for example, when I'm not able to go to my local game store. But even at my local game store, I really like to see it. And I feel like there's more Magic players returning. You know, during the COVID time, I feel like it took a bit to
Huge hit.
recover. It was a huge hit to Magic, but I think we are able to recoup now. I see more interest, also a lot of players that come from Arena, for example, and now want to try the pre-release. So I see new and new faces every pre-release at my local game store, which is a small one. So it's very exciting to see more people enjoying Magic and venturing to these formats. Pioneer is a good start because Modern has a bigger card pool, maybe more difficult for these new players. What do you think? Pioneer is like an in between standard and modern?
Yeah, kind of. I would say the barrier of entry is much lower for a few reasons. It's less complicated than modern. The decks are more what you would expect, right? So you've got creatures, you've got combat, attacking, blocking, removal. So it's a bit more predictable. You've got a few combo decks, which is great for those players who come from modern. Because coming from modern, I want to see diverse gameplay, not just creature decks going at each other. I like the fact that there is Lotus, that there is combo control. I liked it really, really a lot. So the money you need to spend on a deck as well is like a reasonable price tag on a deck compared to modern, which is like twice as expensive. So I think Pioneer is this kind of sweet spot that diverse enough, interesting enough, inexpensive enough that you can get into it relatively easily. You know, play one deck on MTGO, get reps in, and go and play locally.
Yeah, I really been enjoying playing Pioneer, and I see players also enjoying this format here in Valencia. A lot of people trying different decks, and there's a lot of viable options, which is always great because some people prefer more control strategies, some people prefer a bit of more aggro strategies. What about you, Twitch chat? What is your favorite Pioneer deck at the moment?
What is yours?
Mine, okay, so after watching this tournament, actually, I was curious about the Boros convoke, right? But it didn't perform too well on this tournament, or at least we didn't see a lot of copies of it. And now, after this weekend, I have to say, Karuga Fires, I really been enjoying this deck.
Interesting. Okay, so Karuga Fire as your deck of choice. That's interesting. I was a blue-red creativity fan, then I fell off and became back a blue-white control fan, and blue-white control didn't perform very well, but that's not an issue. Once you become a blue-white player, you never stop being a blue-white player, so no worries. 3% conversion rate doesn't scare me. It's a challenge, if anything. It's a challenge, and I accept.
A lot of control players in the chat. I also know a lot of people playing aggro decks, like Gruul Vehicles did pretty well, Mono White Humans doing amazing in this tournament, and I think those are the top two aggro decks that we've been seeing here. The Gruul one also surprised me a lot. It can have a lot of explosive starts, so really nice here, and can we maybe take a look at our meta breakdown, archetypes day 2 conversion? That would be great if we could put the archetype day 2 conversion. There it is. Technical team ready to support us. They are amazing.
Yep.
We can see here Rakdos midrange with 18.22% conversion rate. It was not the deck with the biggest conversion rate. If we look here at the most played ones, actually Phoenix did have the best performance. Boros aggro, which is Boros convoke, actually, some players mislabeled the deck, actually did pretty well as well. Karuga Fires, I was talking about this deck, and look, 40% conversion, so maybe a deck to look for in the future. Chris Fang performing really poorly alongside Control. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so first of all, conversions are a very interesting type of a metric, because on one hand, you know, like out of all those decks, how many advanced, which is a valuable piece of information. On the flip side, though, you have to look at the sample, right? Because, for example, you have a deck that has 100% conversion, right? But maybe one person played it. On the flip side, though, you can advance or not advance with multiple different scores. For example, Control had 3% conversion rate, but maybe hypothetically, all those players went 6 and 3 and didn't get into the day 2, but they were 6 and 3, which is a great win percentage overall, right? And or maybe they all went 0-7 drop, which would be terrible. So the fact that conversion rates don't show whether you went 6-3 or 0-7 is a huge difference. So at the end of the event, we'll take a look at win rates, which will inform our decisions even better. And then I am sure Control will actually float back to the surface, showing a beautiful, let's say, 53%.
I really enjoyed the different decks here, and that I think each round we were able to so far cover different archetypes, and I'm excited to see what our top 8 is going to consist of. And we have the information that it's the end of the round. There's one more round of Swiss, then we are going to announce live the top 8, and the top 8 then will consist of 3 rounds. So this is really exciting. I'm Filipa. This is Skura, also known as Islands in Front. Round 15 will be casted by Hall of Famer Martin Yuza and Caffeine Lily. We'll be back.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are close to the last round before the top 8, the 15th round. And the first thing that we can do right now is just have a quick view to the prices for this event. Top 64 players, so all the players that went today in day 2 will have prices. And then from the 32, they will also gain their qualification for Lils that will be in September, and then the top 8 also will gain better prices, flight voucher, a bunch of USD, and the boxes. It's not to choose between the two of the two options, it's both of them. And now we are ready, I think, for the game. But before that, Martin, can you explain us what is happening with the top tables?
Yeah, so I can tell you that right now we have. Let me just quickly switch this to standings. The top two tables decided to draw. I think the third table actually drew as well. So table one, we had Alvaro Santiago on mono white humans who decided to draw with Jose Antonio Reine Sanebre on Gruel vehicles. So these two players, table one, they decided to draw 36 and 35 points. That should be good enough for the top 8. Table 2 were players Manuel Torres on Ragdos midrange, playing against Jose Luis Sanchez Delgado, also on Ragdos midrange. They also decided to draw, so they should also be locked up for top 8. Looking at the tiebreakers, looking at the numbers. Table 3, they decided to draw. I think it could be a little bit of a risky draw because the tiebreakers can play a big role in that as well. We have Andres Santos against Adria Morad Martinez on Mono Green Devotion and Lotus Field combo. So this is the third table they decided to draw, which leaves us with table 4 and 5, who are definitely playing to win and ins. And the main table that we chose for the feature match this round is Miguel Simoes, who you might remember from the last round of day 1, where he lost against Marco Camiluzzi, which put him to 6-3, which is normally a record you make day 2 with, but Miguel had really good tiebreakers. Today he was running the tables, 4 wins and a draw, so he is currently in a position to be able to make top 8. On the other hand, on the other side, we have an Izzet creativity player, and that is Alejandro Dupuy de Lome playing Izzet creativity. So that's the matchup we have for you right now. The backup feature match is, I believe, also creativity against the Atraxa combo. So the winner of this match should be in the top 8. Of course, I'm not gonna say it's a 100% thing because things can happen. Tiebreakers can change, but I would say 99% that the winner of this match is gonna be locked for top 8.
What do you think about this matchup? Is Izzet favorite against Convoke or the opposite side?
Yeah, so we have Convoke against Izzet. Both decks are sort of combo decks. The aggro deck is, not really a humans deck trying to curve out and using some cards to interact with the opponent. It's a deck that's trying to play a bunch of cheap creatures and then using the bigger Convoke, more expensive ones to make them bigger or get more value, and then use Bushwalker for some really, really quick attacks. On the other hand, we have Izzet Creativity that is trying to play some cheap removal spells in the early game and eventually take the game over by casting Creativity on some treasures, maybe clues, whatever you have in play. And there is a couple different versions. This creativity deck is the one with Torrential Hulk and Magma Opus. I would give slight advantage in game 1 to the person playing on the play, but in general, I like that the Izzet creativity deck has a lot of cheap answers. There are cards like Fury Impulse, there are cards like Spikefield Hazard that they can use in the early turns to stop the Convoke deck from being too fast. And as long as they live till turn 4 or 5, when they're still at a healthy life total, then they can start doing crazy shenanigans with the Gearhulks, and that can also wrath the other side of the battlefield. Here we see Alejandro very smartly responding with a Fury Impulse to the reinforcements so that there would not be 4 untapped creatures on the battlefield that Miguel would then be able to use in combination with the Mana Confluence to cast a 5-drop using the Convoke mechanic. So that was a great play by Alejandro, and this is exactly how he needs to keep himself alive in the early turns.
And another move on the reinforcement.
So you do want to draw cheap removal spells, but at some point it becomes too many because the other deck is going to be casting cards like Forbidden Friendship and Resolute Reinforcement to get sort of 2-for-1s with the tokens. And if you have too many 1-for-1 removal cheap spells, then that's not really how you're going to win the game because your opponent's making an extra token every time you kill one. So at some point, Alejandro wants to start just casting his own combo pieces and finding his own combo pieces and putting cards in the graveyard, like right now with the magma opus being discarded to make a treasure.
Also, because right now we also have a venerated Loxodon on the field and 2 tokens with the +1/+1. So now he needs to start to find something to deal with.
So the way this creativity deck works is not that combo oriented like the Xenagos World Spine War combo, where you would need to try to get 2 artifacts to really go for the combo kill in one turn. Here, all you need is just to have 1 artifact in play, find 4 lands, and then turn the artifact into a Torrential Gearhulk, which is going to let you replay the Magma Opus from the graveyard, which at this point would be able to kill both the 2/2 tokens and then trade for the Loxodon. Not to mention that there would also be a 5/6 Gearhulk in play. So in this matchup, I would give the slight advantage to the Izzet creativity combo, especially because of the fact that there are these cheap removal spells, and then it's going to be a lot easier to stabilize as opposed to the actual combo deck with World Spine Worm that needs to win in one turn.
See what happened.
Wow, so
Ah,
Miguel using Gleeful Demolition, a card you might remember from, I believe it was from New Phyrexia, or from Phyrexia All Will Be One. It is one of those cards that lets you target your opponent's artifacts as well. And Miguel is realizing, okay, well, you just had your 4th land coming to play tapped, so you were not able to cast Creativity, for which you need an artifact in play. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use this opportunity to destroy the artifact and make it a lot harder for you to next turn resolve the creativity. This is gonna give Alejandro 3 tokens that they're gonna be able to block Miguel's creatures, but at the same time Miguel knows that Alejandro is not gonna be able to get a Gearhulk into play next turn.
animated land. Attack with all creatures. Block 1 token. And damages the no tokens. Yeah, chat exactly.
So far, great plays from both players. Miguel, Alejandro realizing, okay, well, if I let you get 4 creatures untapped on turn 3 with an extra land in play, you would be able to play Venerated Loxodon, so I'm going to kill the creature in response. And also, Miguel realizing you are on the creativity deck. I don't want you to have a token in play to be able to target next turn. Oh, I think it's also, you're right. If you target your opponent's artifact, it doesn't make tokens. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. But for Forbidden Friendship, another token on the board with Summoning Sickness, so attacking with the others creatures.
Using Castle Embereth to make them bigger as well. The red combo-y decks like Izzet Creativity are very, very good at stopping the early aggression with all these cheap cards. A lot of people say Pioneer is a lot about being on the play, being on the draw, and being on the play is such a big advantage. If you play red, there are so many cheap ways to interact in the first couple of turns.
Yeah, exactly. They're fixing the life totals. It was now it's perfect.
And this is a great example of Alejandro drawing a few too many burn spells. He really wants to draw a few cheap ones, but at this point he has too many 1-for-1 removal spells and not enough action, and that's not going to win you the game against the player who is basically casting a 2-for-1 every turn.
You can go on with removal, but at sometimes you need something on your board for start to blocking and trade something or trying stuff like that. What can we say about thinking about sideboarding for these two decks?
So Miguel has a Boros deck that wants to sideboard some kind of disruption against creativity. If you want to bring in something like Destroy Evil to kill the Gear Hulk, then that's kind of flawed thinking, because if your opponent already got the Gear Hulk in play, they also already resolved a Magma Opus. So by that time, you're probably already losing, and if you're bringing in cards that are not going to help you being proactive and they're just defensive, they're just trying to kill the Gear Hulk, then you're going to be in a losing position already anyway. It's very different from playing against Neoform, for example, because there, if you kill the Atraxa, well, your opponent has no other board. You can keep attacking with your creatures. Here, if a Gear Hulk resolved, well, then that probably also resolved an Opus, and that means that my board is probably almost already dead anyways. So I would be looking at Invasion of Gobakon instead, which is a great way to get the creativity out of the creativity's player's hand to make sure it costs 6 mana, at least if you want to target one artifact. That would be my preferred card to bring in. Other than that, if you expect your opponent to be on a lot of sweepers, you think the game might go long, maybe a card like Wedding Announcement could be okay, but I don't think this is the type of match that is going to be decided in the long game from the Boros deck, trying to survive that late. On the other hand, the creativity player, you do want the sweepers. You want cards like Brotherhood's End, maybe Sweltering Suns, maybe Anger of the Gods, whatever it is that your 3-drop sweeper of choice is. That is certainly what I would bring in. Cards like Rending Volley that we typically find in Izzet's sideboard, I'm not sure if they're all that great, because in the early game, you already have Fury Impulses and Spikefield Hazards to kill some of the cheaper creatures. So bringing in another 1-mana removal spell can end up with you having too many removal spells like in the first game and not enough actual action. So I think they might come in. They might come in instead of some of the Fury Impulses, for example. Neither of them are particularly great. Of course, the Volley can at least kill one of the 4/4s. So that does seem reasonable. But yeah, make sure you don't have 13 1-mana removal spells in your deck, because your opponent's going to be casting a lot of 2-mana cards that make 2 tokens.
And right now we will have Alejandro on the play.
If you are the creativity player, bringing in something like 3 sweepers is ideal. You don't really want to change too much, because your opponent's deck is very one-dimensional. They're just casting a bunch of small creatures and attacking with them. So you're already pretty solid in the matchup by doing your own thing, executing your own game plan. So just adding a little bit of sweepers that maybe run turn 3 or 4 if you have the Brotherhood's End ready. That's exactly enough already.
Just remember that probably the player who will win this round will go to the top 8. And top 8 is very good because they also win the flight voucher for Lille. Also, and also other prizes like money prizes, booster box. Let's see if they decide to mulligan or to keep.
Outside of Ragdos, we have been seeing a lot of proactive decks, a lot of aggro decks, and a lot of combo. So we have seen a lot of mulliganing, but it certainly does make sense to mulligan in a matchup like this that is just about speed. If you're playing the Ragdos Mirror, you certainly don't want to start on 5 cards, because it is a matchup about card advantage. It is a matchup where both players have a lot of removal, and the game usually does go long. In this matchup, you just kind of want to be fast. And that's just a thing with the Boros deck in general. You are signing up for playing 15 rounds with a deck that has no card selection and that has a lot of cheap, what we call enablers, the cheap creatures that are enabling the big convoke creatures. And you kind of do need to draw them in the right order. You also do need to draw your mana correctly, and sometimes you're just going to take them all again. But that's just how it is with these aggressive decks. The Izzet Dex is on the Magma Opus Torrential Gear Hulk plan,
Mhm.
which has been the more popular version of this deck in this format, in this metagame rather. Sorry. I think even online, actually, the Gear Hulks have been more popular lately. There is also the Atraxa version. There is also the World Spine combo version, but those were a little bit less represented in the last couple of weeks. And Izzet has been doing well this event, just in general. Not only do we have two players playing for top 8 at these two tables, but I think there was more Izzet in day
Yay.
2 and just in general with a good conversion rate.
Yeah, Izzet was pretty good from yesterday. He had a pretty good conversion rate for today.
I think on table 5 we have Marco Vassallo playing against Daniel Morneo. Izzet Creativity against Atraxa combo, and Marco Vassallo, you might remember him from last week winning the Magic Online Championship showcase. So he's been on quite a heater.
Our true hero. And meanwhile, Miguel is starting with a bunch of tokens. He started to build up his board.
Yeah, that looks like an Epicure into Forbidden
exactly.
Friendship.
Blood token, then 2 tokens for the Forbidden Friendship.
So here, if Alejandro has a Rending Volley, he's not even going to be able to play it because none of these tokens can be targeted by that. So it is an interesting decision between, do I want to keep more Fury impulses, or do I rather want to have Rending Volley that I might not be able to play, but it can kill a 4/4 later in the game. Oh, the human token is white. Never mind. We're just using some
Yeah,
tokens that are not supposed to be
judges
on
on
the
stage.
table. Okay, never mind. My fault.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult when we don't have proper tokens for the actual cards in play, creatures in play, so it can be confusing. And turn 3, Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
So this is a much better start from Alejandro. He was able to use a cheap burn spell early to try to make the board a little bit smaller, and then untap on turn 3 to resolve the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So not only can the Goblin token block, but Alejandro can also start getting ahead on board by creating some extra free resources from the Goblin token by attacking. Let's see if Miguel has a good answer to that. Something like a Gleeful Demolition on the Blood token into Goblin Bushwalker. That'd be the perfect. That'd be the perfect answer. Who's winning at table 5? Unfortunately, we don't know that because we're in the coverage booth. But as soon as we get an update, we're gonna be able to bring that for you.
And also after this round, there will be the announcement of the top 8, so don't worry. They are switching tokens for better cast for us, for making for us easier. And meanwhile, yeah, exactly as you were saying before, Gleeful Demolition on the Blood token, 2 tokens from that, 3 tokens, sorry, from that. And Venerated Loxodon.
Okay, so pretty decent turn for Miguel there.
Now again, a lot of +1/+1 on tokens, and it can start to be a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, so this is exactly what the Boros deck needs to do. So the Boros deck is executing its own game plan pretty well. Let's see if Alejandro does have his own combo pieces. In this case, all that's needed is a simple Indomitable Creativity, which if you attack with the Goblin token, of course you would sort of chump attack into the Loxodon. But after combat, if you were to cast Creativity for 1 on the treasure, you can finish off the Loxodon for 2, kill another token for 2 more, and then you end up with a 4/4 and a 5/6 in play, staring down 4 2/2 tokens. So that would be a pretty reasonable board state, and it looks like that's what's happening. Alejandro discarding Magma Opus to Fable in the main phase by using the second chapter of Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and now before blockers there is a Rending Volley that deals with the Loxodon. So no creativity, but at least the 4/4 is off of the battlefield. But there's still 5 2/2 creatures, so right now that looks better for Miguel for sure. Are there any Lotus players in the top tables? I believe one of them drew.
Yeah, the table number 4 has Murad Martinez in Lotus Field.
Yeah, we have the third table. Yeah, they drew into the top 8. I'm not sure if the Lotus Field player has good enough tiebreakers, but they have decided to draw. So you can wait for the top 8 announcement to see. But Lotus was also doing fairly well in the tournament and had a good conversion rate. It is round 15.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. The records should be a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's a problem for now. After this round, we will announce you the top 8. So, as we said before, probably the player who is gonna win this game will be in the top 8. The decklist will be available during or after the top 8. I'm not sure about that. But for sure, just check the MTG Melee site after the event. It will be all out.
Alejandro attacking with the Goblin token again to make a treasure. Does he have creativity though? Doesn't look like it, but he does have 7 mana now, which means that he can sacrifice one of the treasure tokens to cast Gear Hulk and play Magma Opus from the graveyard.
Now Miguel is just checking. It's always good to check and be sure about the text of one card if you're not sure
Rakdos
about it.
was the most popular deck in the field, but I think we only have 2 of them locked for the top 8 right now. So you don't have to worry about, all Rakdos mirrors in the top 8. I think the top 8 is going to be fairly diverse. A Gruul player made it, of all things. People thought Gruul was not that well positioned, but turns out we have a player in the top 8.
Of course, he wasn't running off with the Gear Hulk. He was just checking something with the judge. And he targeting the Magma Opus from the graveyard.
Yeah, the records are wrong. Miguel should be 10-3-1, and Alejandro on the other side. Alejandro on the other side is 10-3-1. So both players. No, Miguel is actually 11-3. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we need to get that fixed.
Let's see what happened meanwhile. They're fixing the score. Yeah, of course, it can't be 11-3-1. Just thinking about, it's always good to take your time for think your next move. I can see a make disappear in hand for Alejandro.
So Gearhulk got destroyed by Wear and Tear. That's an interesting sideboard card to bring in, because not only does it let you destroy the Gearhulk, it also lets you actually interact with creativity by destroying the artifact in response. So that's a great sideboard by Miguel.
Also, he's stuck at 2 lands. Is it so bad for an aggro deck to be stuck in 2 lands against a creativity?
It's it's certainly not ideal, but the Boros deck is definitely one of those decks that can work on 2 lands.
Inspector on the field.
It looks like a convoke.
Make disappear, and we are going to game 3.
All right, Miguel packs things up. Let's recap what happened at the top tables again, because
Yeah.
we've had some people asking in the chat. So tables 1 and 2 tables 1, 2, and 3 actually decided to draw. I think table 1, looking at the standings, looking at the tiebreakers and at the point total, I think they should be locked for top 8. It was Alvaro Santiago with Mono White Humans drawing with Jose Antonio Reyne Senabre on Gruel Vehicles, so both of these players should be locked for top 8. Table number 2 was Manuel Torres on Ragdos Midrange, playing against Jose Luis Sanchez Delgado on Ragdos Midrange as well. So these 4 players, I think we're gonna see in the top 8 no matter what. Table 5 and 6 took what I thought was, in my opinion, a little bit of a risky draw because it might not work for one of them. Andres Santos on Mono Green Devotion decided to draw with Adria Murad Martinez on Lotus Field Combo. Now we have table 4 that is being played on the main feature match on camera right now, and then next to them we have table 5 where the winner should also be heading into the top 8, where we have Marco Vasallo playing Izzet Creativity against, I think, the Atroxa, the Neoform Atroxa combo played by Daniel Arellano Morneo.
Exactly. And I know Italian people in chat is cheering for Marco, and he's our Mox winner for from the last weeks. So guys, keep on with cheerings for your favorite players. We have still all the top 8 to cover. We will cover entirely the semi-final, finals. Not both match, of course, but we will switch to table 2 if this table will end fast enough. Meanwhile, we can see them getting ready for game 3. Plenty of time left. Yeah, we need our hero, don't worry. He's fighting for his top 8. Meanwhile, right now, Boros Convoke is on the play again, so it could be relevant for a fast deck as Convoke is. The deck list will be out after top 8. This is a closed deck list tournament. I can see people rooting for Miguel. Go on, chat, cheer for your players. Meanwhile, the first start for Miguel is with Walder and Epicure and Blood Token.
Yeah, Miguel on the play in game 3, that's a huge difference as well. Especially if he was able to bring in some disruption like we saw in the second game, where and tear was used to destroy a torrential Gearhulk. That's certainly something that can catch Alejandro off guard.
Turn to Invasion of Gobakan. If it's resolved, the invasion will check Alejandro's hand for make 1 card in exile, take 1 card in exile, making cost 2 more. And then when it flips, the battle says that it gains +1/+1 on every creature that attack at the end of the turn. It could be very good for Miguel.
Yeah, not only does the battle pump the creatures that attack, there is also another line of text that maybe a lot of players might not know. There's a second line of text that says you can sacrifice it to give your creatures indestructible and hexproof until end of turn. So
It's
that's
very
going to be
relevant.
relevant if your opponent is on something like Brotherhood's End or Anger of the Gods. You can make your creatures survive the sweeper. I think that's 3 different lands. I think that's a blue-red
Yeah.
pathway, a Stormcarved Ghost, and that looks like the blue-red shock land. So if Miguel is able to take the Gearhulk here, that leaves Alejandro with just 3 lands in hand.
Exactly.
Not a lot to play with. Gearhulk on 8 mana. That's also not really gonna be a possibility anytime soon. So Alejandro is gonna need to draw some action pretty quickly.
Let's see if Miguel has any other creatures in hand.
The invasion is definitely good in the matchup. You usually use it to make creativity more expensive. Obviously, in this case, using it on Gearhulk is fine as well, but that's not really the main concern of yours in the first, 4 or 5 turns. Ideally, you would start the first couple of turns with creatures rather than casting the invasion because it's not really putting pressure on the opponent. Oh, it looks like it actually took
The make disappear.
the make disappear. Okay. So there was another card off to the side. So we have 3 lands, a Torrential Gearhulk, and an unknown card in Alejandro's hand right now.
It could also be a good option to deal with the make disappear early, so now we can try to resolve something.
Yeah, if I'm Miguel, I'm definitely more concerned about the make disappear stopping me from, advancing my board in the early game, which is what matters the most, as opposed to the Gearhulk, which is a very late game card. At which point I would ideally want to be done with the game. But it doesn't seem like Miguel has too fast of a draw because invasion is not really what you're hoping to play on turn 2.
3-mana Giganta.
Okay, that is also a sign of a hand that perhaps is too
Yeah.
heavy on the convoke creatures and not enough of the enablers. Another reason to play invasion on turn 2 can also be, okay, well, maybe you might not have creativity, but if I played on turn 2 while you only have 1 mana in play, I'll be able to get your Magma Opus from hand maybe. And that card actually gets exiled from the hand. It doesn't put like a counter on it where you would need to pay 2 more mana to do the thing. It actually gets exiled from the hand, and you need to
Exactly.
pay 2 mana with Magma Opus to discard it from your hand. So at that point, the Magma Opus also kind of becomes unusable.
Another Epicure and the Bushwalker. And it's resolved. Going on the battle, trying to flip it.
I believe I see a rending volley in Alejandro's hand, which is very unfortunate because it cannot deal with the red creatures right now. That flips the invasion, so now the creatures are gonna get bigger. Now Miguel has a way to protect them also with the invasion, so
Yeah.
he's not gonna be too afraid of a sweeper right now. Yeah, I have to say I've been very impressed with the invasion of Gobakan this event. It has been looking very good, not only out of Boros, also out of the mono white aggro deck, and I believe we do have 2 copies of mono white lined up for the top 8 right now.
It's an amazing card. Four mana open for both of them. There is a lot of thinking, but I think they are taking the right amount of time also because the winner of this game probably will go to top 8.
Right. I would like to tell you what this card is, but I'm
It's an
gonna be honest
Inspector.
here. I have no idea.
It's an Inspector.
Oh, it's a Thraben Inspector. I think
Should
it
be.
costs 1 and white. I think it's a different card.
I can be wrong.
Oh, it's a selfless spirit. Okay, that
Oh, thank you.
there we go. So that's another way to stop the opponent from sweeping your board away with something like Brotherhood's End.
I think it was the card from Naples. From
All right, so
the
oh, okay, one of the RC promos.
yeah, exactly.
Were the RC promos different for each of the tournament? I remember the first RC gave Teferi as a Teferi Hero of Dominaria as a promo, which I thought was really cool. Was it a different one for the second RC? Does the third one also have a different card?
This one was I'm sure that it was for Naples for the last C
Okay,
because I had it,
okay.
but I'm not sure about if change with every second cycle. SQ top 8 promo.
Second RC was a Gideon Eliab Zendikar. Okay, because I forgot to pick up the promo myself. I just forgot that there was a swag bag, and I was wondering if I gave up, a very interesting card. So I'm probably just gonna go back and ask. But yeah, meanwhile, that finally let Alejandro resolve the rending volley, and that was an interesting decision for Miguel. Does he want to sacrifice the invasion, or does he want to keep it on the battlefield to protect the selfless spirit? He decided to let it die. But meanwhile, there are these two creatures just attacking. Castle Embereth being activated, which turns that into 8 damage coming in, I believe. Yeah, and after Miguel passing with 2 cards in hand, that certainly smells a little bit like something like a wear and tear or some kind of interaction. Because if it was a creature, he would have already played it. I already see 7 lands between the graveyard and the battlefield, so
Yeah.
hopefully it's not 2 more lands. I would be concerned about some kind of interaction if I was Alejandro here.
Meanwhile, Magma Opus, discard from hand.
Oh, Frank's pointing out one of those cards is Giganta, right? Miguel actually used the third turn
Exactly.
to put Giganta in his hand. Okay. Now deciding that I'm just going to be more aggressive rather than trying to cast Giganta, but with Alejandro discarding that Magma Opus at the end of the turn, we know that he does have a Gear Hulk in hand, so
Yeah.
right now,
We can
despite
see.
despite being on 9 life, that's going to be a very very powerful play available to him this turn.
We can also see Fable of the Mirror Breaker in hand for Alejandro.
All right, Battlefield Forge, land number 7.
Yeah.
There's another one in the graveyard, so not a great draw for Miguel here.
And the Gear Hulk. It's coming down, recasting Magma Opus.
Yeah, now Alejandro is asking, okay, what do you have in hand? Do you have a way to stop this?
Yeah.
Because if not, that's going to be a really good turn here. So targets being chosen. Miguel deciding to use the cash in the invasion. Does it give hexproof to him as well? Now it depends on how many targets have been chosen in which way. But I think it's a bunch of different abilities on the Magma Opus. So if it has more targets, if you target more players and more creatures and everything, so that at least one of the target remains legal on the resolution of the spell, then it's going to resolve. But if you make everything have hexproof, or the targets are going to become illegal, then at that point the whole spell would get countered. So Magma Opus deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents, create a 4/4 blue elemental token, draw 2 cards. So if Alejandro says, okay, I'm going to target your 2 creatures and tap your 2 lands, and Invasion of Gobakan, let's see what it says exactly. If it gives hexproof just to creatures, then it's still going to resolve. If it gives hexproof to Miguel as well, then that would be, and his land, that would be a different thing.
Doesn't it have Hexproof to permanents only creatures.
Okay, so it's gonna resolve 4/4, yeah, on the battlefield. Yeah, the Opus should be exiled. Let's make sure we communicate that to the table.
We will fix that. Don't worry. And of course, now is in exile. Yeah, there is another Gobakan in on the board. Let's see what happened right now. I've asked our crew to check the correct life total, so don't worry, they will fix if it's wrong.
Yeah, the invasion was sacrificed, so not only does it give it hexproof to your creature, it also gives them indestructible.
Yeah.
So if there was a 4/4 token maybe trying to block the Bushwalker, then the Bushwalker is going to stay in play and the token's going to leave.
Lovely. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, the Goblin token coming down on the board. The life totals are correct right now.
Yeah, Alejandro is at 3, but it looks like he's slowly turning the game around because this was a really crucial turn, letting him to stay alive and also just get creatures big enough into play that are going to be able to stop the attacks from Miguel right now, unless he has more gas in hand. But unfortunately, as we saw in the last couple of turns, he's just being really flooded. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not modern. There are no cards like lightning bolt, so we're not going to see a top deck lightning bolt for the win here.
Also, we know one of the cards in hand for Miguel is the Giganta. Let's see what he decides to do. Also, I think that Alejandro has another Make Disappear in hand.
Yeah, luckily for Miguel, that's probably not
it's
gonna.
not a big problem in this situation.
We might see it getting to counter Giganta if Alejandro is willing to let his Goblin token go. But yeah, at this point, you know, it's a silver lining of getting flooded. At least
Yeah.
Make Disappear is not gonna be that good against me.
5 mana. And trying to resolve Giganta.
A disdainful stroke, okay.
This is better. And pass.
So it looks like there's actually a Slivers player who just locked up a seat in the top 8. That's really interesting. No, I just totally made that up, but that would be cool.
People in chat.
I think Stroke actually looks somewhat reasonable if you just really need some extra cards to bring in because you have some bad ones to board out. It still counters all the convoke cards. We have no update on the second table, unfortunately. We thought
Don't
that
worry.
this would be a very fast match, but it turns out we
Yeah,
have 7 or 8 minutes left, and we're still in the middle of game 3.
exactly as Frank Carson has predicted at the start of the second game. Attack with boat or convoke. Sorry. Let's try to resolve. Let's see if
So Knight Errant of Eos is currently on the stack. That is certainly one of those cards that can be used to get out of this mess, because that would give Miguel 2 more creatures to possibly work with. At some point, maybe he finds a Bushwalker, or I think there is a Castle Embreth in play as well, I believe. So as soon as he's able to just flood the board with more creatures, there might be opportunity for one big attack with a Castle activation to try to deal those last 4 points of damage.
and it's resolving.
Yeah, the event is with closed deck lists, but
Yeah,
as soon as the top 8 either begins or finishes, I'm not sure what the actual process is with MTG Melee. We are going to be able to make the events public. It might be a Melee thing where the event has to end for the deck list to be public, but the players in the top 8 do have access to each other's deck.
Oh yeah, you can just check MTG Melee and see what Marco has done.
That looks like the Knight whiffed, because I think Miguel still has no. Giganta was countered. Miguel has 1 card in hand. It looked like the knight might have just completely whiffed, which is very unlucky in this deck. Well, if you're Miguel in this spot, you're definitely thinking, man, like I've been battling all the way from 6-3 to 11-3, winning all 5 rounds today, just to come this close. I won game 1, and now I'm just getting completely flooded. My
Yeah.
knight is whiffing. What is going on?
And Opus is
Yeah,
deal
now we
with
have
knight.
another magma
Yeah.
opus just being hardcast, dealing with the knight, making another 4/4, drawing some more cards, and at this point, Alejandro is definitely turning the game around.
At 4 life points, that's fine enough. And the Fable is flipping into the reflection of the Kiki-Jiki, so from the next round it can also start to copies.
Yeah, and Gearhulk,
Yeah,
I don't think that's a legendary creature. I remember playing Blue Red Control in Standard and having a bunch of them in play. So next turn, Kiki Reflection can start copying Gearhulks, and that's gonna be fun.
yeah. Also, Magma was hard-casted, so right now is in the graveyard. It can came back.
Wear and Tear definitely looks like a good sideboard card to me if the opponent is on the combo with Xenagos and World Spine Worm, where you do need to target 2 artifacts and then have it resolve for 2 different targets. So in that matchup, casting Wear and Tear for 1 seems pretty reasonable, because you're just gonna be able to stop them from comboing, and if they only get 1 piece of the combo, then that's not really gonna do anything. In this situation, maybe the Gearhulk deck has too many just fair plays available, where it might not be as relevant, but it still seems like a pretty decent card, because you can sort of counter creativity with it, and it still kills Gearhulk towards the end of the game. But yeah, if you're casting Gearhulk, then this is exactly happening as well. Magma Opus is resolving, killing things, drawing you more cards, tapping permanents, and yeah.
It's a GG. At 4 life points, this was amazing. Such a comeback. It was very good. Guys, we are ready for the top 8, I think. This was the last round of the Swiss. We are ready for top 8. Right now, me and Filippa will be back soon for announce you the top 8 players, and then we will be back on stream for let you see the games.
Yeah.